Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here, your source for gaming, tech, emulation, and open source news. Let's get started. Alright, we'll kick things off talking about a highly anticipated app for Android, one that allows you to play Windows games on Android. It's called Cassia. And Cassia, unfortunately, is dead. I'll drop a link to the full announcement in the description below and feel free to check it out, or just feel free to pause the video and read through it. Now, at a high level, the developers just ran out of time for working on the project. They work full-time jobs, they go to university, they have a lot on their plate, and they just didn't have time to make Cassia what they wanted it to be. Now, for what it's worth, I asked the developers if they'd be willing to just not sleep at night and work on Cassia instead, and unfortunately, they both valued their sleep and their health and said that that's not possible. And they also say, reiterating here, since it has come up, they will open source absolutely everything they have soon. If anyone wants to use it as a base for a similar project, they have their full permission. Now, as a silver lining, they're not leaving the development scene altogether. Mark says, just to reiterate, we're going to continue personally contributing to the underlying projects that make something like Cassia possible, just not on an app that puts it all together. For those who may not be aware, the main developers of Citra are some of the main developers of Skyline, a former Nintendo Switch emulator on Android. And they have been known to help out the emulation community quite a bit. They may have fingerprints on Yuzu for Android, Aether SX2, Citra, and even more. So while this news is super unfortunate, at the same time the developers are working at things I would argue at a more macro level that's probably going to help out Android in general. So if you are curious about Cassia and wanted to learn more about it, I'll drop a link to their GitHub in the description below and feel free to check it out. And for Mark and Bylaws, the main developer of Cassia, I wish you all the best in your future endeavors. Now, for those of you looking for Windows emulation on Android, the current two emulators that seem to be the best are Winlator and Mobox, and these are still under active development. And speaking about active development, next up we're talking about igir, which is a video game ROM collection manager to help filter, sort, patch, archive, and report on collections on any OS. And igir just got a brand new update. So at the time of filming, version 2.8.0 is the latest update. There's a whole bunch of fixes and some brand new features. So it now supports MAME DATs. It now detects archives with bad extensions. It says files don't always get distributed with the correct extension, so igir can now detect if a file is an archive and what type of archive it is, even if the extension is wrong. And for macOS, you can now install igir on macOS using Brew. If you are curious about this one, igir is 100% free, open source, and available for Windows, Mac, and Linux. I'll drop a link to it in the description below. Moving on, and we're quickly talking about Gaming Gaiden. And Gaming Gaiden is a simple Windows system tray application written in PowerShell to track your gaming time and review how you have spent your hours at leisure. They also say this tracks runtime for any PC or emulated game. It supports RetroArch and even more. At the time of filming, version 2024.6.13 is the latest update, and this one is under active development. So the update here has a whole bunch of fixes and some brand new features. So they've got a new quick view to check the 5 most recent in progress and finished games, and yeah, it seems like a pretty quick view. There's idle time tracking now if you don't have any input in game. You can track the number of sessions played for each game and even more. There's new statistics charts, performance improvements, quality of life improvements, and even more. Let me know your thoughts about Gaming Gaiden in the comments below. Is this something of interest? Would you use it? Next up, this one's a quick one and a win for preservation. If you've ever had an N905 iPhone, you probably recognize this game. And if you didn't have the N905i, you still may recognize this game. This is an iMode port of the original Koronipa game, and it was out on the Wii. So this game uses motion controls or the keypad to roll a marble through a labyrinth, and this game has now been preserved, at least the iMode port of it. Next up is a quick update for Taki Udon's $99 MiSTer board. Now, in a previous video, we talked about this one because the name of this thing was a little bit controversial. So he named it the MiSTer Pi, where this has nothing to do with the Raspberry Pi other than the fact that it's a single board computer. And Taki has taken that feedback and changed the name. So Taki posted a poll over on Twitter with some naming options, and also the fact that changing the name would result in a 1-month delay. There was the option to not change the name, but the most popular option here was Retro FPGA. There was also Pixel Forge and Mr. SBC. So let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below. How do you like the new name of Retro FPGA? How did you like the old name of Mr. Pi? And how do you like the price point of a $99 MiSTer board? And speaking about pricing, next up we're talking about Kingdom Hearts on Steam. And Kingdom Hearts is now on Steam. So we've got Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5 and 2.5 Remix, Kingdom Hearts 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue, and Kingdom Hearts 3 Plus Remind DLC. Now surprisingly here, all of these games that just released are all deeply discounted, 31% off. That is quite a bit of savings. Additionally here, I don't see de novo on any of these games, and some may argue that's a very big win. So let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below. Are you interested in these Kingdom Hearts games? Are you surprised they're already discounted? And are you surprised they don't have de novo? And on a quick side note, it appears they are running a giveaway where someone may win a Steam Deck. I'll drop a link to this in the description below as well. Although there are over 3 million entries, so good luck. Next up, we're talking about ARM, Qualcomm, and a very weird controversy. So Android Headlines is reporting that ARM wants to destroy Snapdragon X laptops over contract dispute with Qualcomm. So at a high level here, back in 2021, Qualcomm purchased Nuvia. Now Nuvia had a contract with ARM to build server chips. And instead of building those server chips after Qualcomm purchased them, Qualcomm had Nuvia build these Snapdragon X laptop chips. And for clarification, by build, I mean design. Now Qualcomm and ARM have a very close relationship, and from my understanding, nothing has been resolved yet, and I am very curious to see what happens. Next up, we're talking about Lolipop Chainsaw, and Dragami Games has just released the trailer for Lolipop Chainsaw RePOP. I'll drop a link to the trailer in the description below, and feel free to check it out. They say Lolipop Chainsaw RePOP is a remake of the original Lolipop Chainsaw. RePOP is a definitive version of the game which leaves the story unchanged, with a focus on quality of life improvements and additional gameplay content. The release of this one is September 25th, headed to PS5, Xbox, Nintendo Switch, and also Steam. Next up, we're talking about Game Boy and Game Boy Color emulation with SameBoy, and SameBoy just got a brand new update. So at the time of filming, SameBoy version 0.16.6 is the latest update. There's a whole bunch of fixes, accuracy improvements, and for the iPhone, there's a whole bunch of new and improved features. You can now browse the Homebrew Hub and download submitted games and demos directly on the iOS front end. The option to open SameBoy's library in the Files app has been added to the iOS front end's library screen. Screen dimming is now disabled while emulation is running on the iOS front end. They've improved D-pad controls on iOS, and user-provided boot ROMs can now be selected in the iOS front end. SameBoy is free, it's open source, and I'll drop a link to it in the description below. On iOS, there is a paid portion, and I believe that's just for skins. Next up, this one's a quick heads up and a good heads up that GuiliKit's anti-drift Hall effect sticks are headed to the Xbox, PS5, PS4, and Switch Pro gamepads. I'll drop a link to this article in the description below. I've used GuiliKit joysticks in my Steam Deck, I've used them on the Switch, I've used them in a few different devices, and so far they've been good. Next up, this one's another quick one and a fun one. We're talking about Doom on the SNES. Now, a little while back, the Doom source code was released, and it appears it's already been compiled. There's a brand new release, Doom 2 Map 01 and Map 02 on the SNES over on romhacks.org. If you are curious about this one and wanted to learn more about it, I'll drop a link to it in the description below and feel free to check it out. They say the first 2 levels of Doom 2 ported to the SNES. No other content from Doom 2 has been ported. This hack only uses the assets already available in the game, except for the level's title screen and intermission background, of course. Next up is a quick update on the latest about the new Xbox One and Series S and X exploit. And apparently this can be performed with Notepad T or a Raspberry Pi Pico. If you are curious about this one, I'll drop a link to Modded Warfare's YouTube video in the description below and feel free to check it out. Apparently it uses the GameScript application. And speaking about YouTube videos, last up here, this one's another fun one, and I'll drop a link to this video in the description below, and I do recommend checking it out. TechDweeb has a brand new series here called Retro Roundtable, and yours truly is on it. In my completely biased opinion, this is an awesome collaboration with a lot of awesome YouTubers, and it is worth a watch. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and no fluff. We talked about a bunch today. Let me know your thoughts about absolutely any of it in the comments below. If you like this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button, check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate, save your state.